Hi guys, welcome back to the James Bond Show. I'm your host Krazy with no fears, limits or substitutes, and today I am reviewing Pierce Brosnan's last Bond film, Die Another Day, with a budget of right over 100 million. This has probably got a budget here of around 150 million, and the film made around $456 million at the box office, so it made the money. But is it any good? We will get to that soon. Now, as you guys know, I like to include my collector pieces in my reviews, and for this film, Die Another Day, there's no bigger piece I have than this. This is the actual article, the real deal. It's not a prop, it's not a replica, it's not screen accurate. This is the hat of General Dong from Die Another Day. So that is his actual hat. Now, there were only two made. There was a screen used one and there was a spare one. This is the actual one that was used. So when you see the film, the finale scene where the generals are up on the big, really crappy CGI plane and General Moon Senior, whatever his name is, he's talking. He's got three generals behind him. One of them is General Dong, and that is his hat there. Yeah, you go, guys. So, doesn't quite fit. He must have had the smallest little Asian pinhead. And I'll tell you what, I thought I had a small pinhead, but that guy, that's going to be on the thumbnail, isn't it? So there you go. There is his hat. So that is actually, that ended up coming from the production company to the prop store in London, and I've got an official certificate and everything, and I've been in contact also with the manager there. I won't say his name, but he's a wonderful chap, and I send emails back and forth whenever, you know, discussing collector pieces. Especially sometimes there are pieces from people that work there put on the James Bond collectors page on Facebook, so I go back and forth with him just to check everything's good, and he appreciates that. And that is the hat. And a while back, probably 2 years ago, when I thought about selling the collection, he said he would happily sell it for me, and they do not sell anything unless it's basically straight off a film, from a film set, and it's all official. Anything non-certificates they don't want to know about. Okay, so speaking about something with a non-certificate, here's a pair of Korean gloves from Die Another Day. I'll read out the little card blurb here for you that I've got. I've made up these beautiful little cards for my collection. So this is them. So this is the production pair of North Korean trigger gloves worn by a North Korean soldier in the General Moon compound sequence at the beginning of the film. Slap them over you. So there you go, guys. There's those. Now, also, of course, we've got the Aston Martin, as Q calls it, the Vanish, or as we normal people call it, the Vanquish. Look at that. That is gorgeous. Now, doesn't matter what you say about the film. The car, yes, I know it kind of goes invisible. It's not really invisible when you think about it, guys, but it's a cool car. It's a cool car. I love the car. I've seen one in real life as well. At the, I think it was a 2012 Grand Prix, they had a few Aston Martins there on display, and that was one of them. Now, this guy right here, he is, wow. Okay, so this is a very heavy and reasonably rare Pierce Brosnan side-shown polystone statue at 1/4 scale. I call it a statue because if you listen to this, that's a statue. That's not a little plastic figurine. So he is number, wow, it's pretty special, this one. To get them in low numbers is something you want to do. Now, when there's 1,250 made, to get number 6 is pretty hard to do. This chap is number 6. So that is number 6, Pierce Brosnan there. Number 6. So there you go. And guess what, guys? The hat and this, pretty soon, will be up for sale. So if you have an interest, maybe leave a comment below, because I am most likely going to sell my collection later in the year. I'm going to hang on to some pieces, Maybe, but we'll see. We'll see what people want out there. Okay, guys, let's get into this. So, at the beginning of the film, we've got 007 surfing into North Korea. He surfs in with a few other agents, and they're basically going into... They've got these conflict diamonds, and they're going in, and James Bond is pretending that he is... a badass dude selling these conflict diamonds. So he goes in as a double agent. And it's funny, from here on in, we don't really see what happens to the other two guys that surfed in with him. Now, the surfing section was done, I believe, in the famous, at the famous location where they have Jaws, which is literally Jaws the wave. They call this wave or this surf section Jaws, and they filmed there. And there's a great documentary on it on the Die Another Day DVD. So Pierce Brosnan goes in. Now, guys, I gotta say this. This plot gets confusing. It gets confusing because it has no idea what it's doing, and Purvis and Wade are back writing it. Now, again, I mentioned the special features. If you watch the special features of this film, you will see there's one about the writing, and you see Purvis and Wade, they talk about, they go off into cafes, you know, they'll do stuff together, and then they'll go off home or different cafes and write. Then one will email one thing to the other and they share it. And then there's a meeting with Barbara Broccoli and Michael G. Wilson, the producers. And there's interviews with them saying, when in doubt, always go back to Fleming. She talks about this through this special. Go back to Fleming. There is no Fleming in this film. There is no Ian Fleming in this film. This is the film that caused the reboot and ended this man's career, basically. So, at the beginning, Bond's in there, he's pretending to be this dude, and he gets caught out because Zal, who later has diamonds in his face, Zal basically detects that James Bond is there from a pretty cool little gadget of a little face recorder scanner thing, and James Bond comes up there and he gets busted. There ensues a huge gunfight. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to take this before I go on. You'll see why I'm going to jump into this right now. In 2002, when Die Another Day came out at the cinema, I lived in a suburb. Literally, I was 60 seconds drive from one of the biggest, best cinemas in the country. I jumped in my little soft-top car. It was a nice day. I drove down to the cinema, went in, and there were these four guys there, these four young dudes, and they're dressed in tuxedos. And I'm like, oh, you James Bond fans? And they didn't know that, you know, I was this walking kind of Bond encyclopedia. Got talking to them, and what do you think, guys? You excited? Yeah, we're really excited. And they're in tuxedos, and I'm like, cool. Cinema wasn't super packed. There were enough people in there. It was opening morning. It wasn't super packed. Anyway, when it got to the scene where Little Moon, Big Moon, Little Moon, where Little Moon is inside his compound, he's in his quarters, and he's kicking a bag. I'm like, there's someone in that bag. Sure enough, they open it. There's someone in the bag. It turns out to be his counselor, his anger therapist. And once the line comes up, that'll teach you to, you know, blah, blah, whatever it was, that'll teach you to tell me what to do, you know, or to scold me type of thing. Once I read that, I thought, oh dear, okay, this could really be bad. And that was the opening PTS. Then the PTS moves along, the cars explode, guns are going off, and diamonds explode into Zal's face. And we will get to that later. And then Bond ends up in a huge hovercraft chase against Moon and his men. And then we've got Colonel Moon. He's heading to he's the older Moon, he's Big Moon, and he's coming to see what little naughty General Moon is up to at the compound because he can see smoke in that. And there's a huge hovercraft chase. Now, the hovercraft chase is not too bad. There's a really, almost for one of the first times in a James Bond film, there's a real desaturated look here that kind of looks like this was 2002, Saving Private Ryan was 1998. By this time, every film was trying to copy Janusz Kaminski's kind of colour palette from that film when it came to anything with war scene related. It's a wrong colour palette for this film. A Pierce Brosnan James Bond film doesn't kind of suit this colour palette, whether it's being filmed supposedly in North Korea or not. The action here is not great. Vic Armstrong filmed it. I don't think he was a second unit director. I don't think it's his best work. Some of the model miniature work here is really good. But what kind of saves this pre-title sequence is David Arnold's score. The score here is actually awesome. It's really good. And I'll tell you what, this piece of music, if it's track 4 on the Die Another Day soundtrack, if you're driving along in your car and you put this bit in, if you're doing 80 and 80's the speed limit, you're going to be doing like 110 in a matter of 30 seconds because this thing gets pumping and it helps you drive a little bit faster and edgier. So Bond gets in a fight with Moon. The hovercraft with Moon on it ends up going over down the cliff river thing, and again there's some cool model miniature work here. Colonel Moon pops up, Bond's hanging off a bell, saves by the bell with his bad joke, and he says, well, you killed my son, blah blah blah. James Bond's captured, and he's captured for how many months, and he's tortured, etc. And then Madonna's song comes in. Now, Elton John came out and said this was the worst James Bond theme song of all time. I used to think it was terrible. I have to admit, with the soundtrack in my car, even though I cannot stand Madonna as a human being and a person, I think she's a wretched, disgusting little Satanist who's into some really dark stuff. If you research Madonna and who she is and what she's into, Illuminati, Satanistic rituals, the woman is walking evil. But the song has grown on me over the years, and it's actually, especially with a good bass system, good kicking when it's in the car or at home, it's actually a ripping song now. It's not my favourite, but it's still a decent song. Some of the lyrics in it are a little bit dodgy, where she starts talking about Freud and all that, and does laughing bits. But you know what? It's got energy, it's got a bit of tempo, and the Bond music of today is really missing that, except for Chris Cornell's song he did for Casino Royale, You Know My Name, which was a fantastic upbeat song as well. So, okay, so we get into the main plot of the film. So basically, James Bond feels he's been betrayed. Now, this is where the film gets confusing. So, is he being betrayed because the little Asian chick who's like General Moon's girlfriend, is that Miranda Frost? It's never clearly explained. We're supposed to think it is, and no matter how many times I've watched this film, which fortunately is not too many since 2002, because it's a torturous event to watch it, I'm assuming that that is actually her, and she's a traitor. At the later on in the film, it looks like it is, but nothing's explained there. We never see her getting facial recognition or facial stuff done. Anyway, so James Bond, he ends up in Hong Kong, and a guy called Lau basically helps him. Bond goes off to Cuba, and he goes to track down Zhao and this gene clinic that's doing all the gene stuff, and then we get Jinx. James Bond is at a bar reading the book, The Birds of the West Indies. He's got his binoculars, and he sees Jinx, played by Halle Berry, in arguably the worst performance of her life, coming up out of the ocean and in the bikini, trying to do, you know, the white knife, a homage to Honey Rider in Dr. No. It doesn't work. She doesn't work in this. No, you know what? I'm going to get straight into her character. Her character, Jinx, absolutely sucks. Now, seriously, rapists, pedophiles, and murderers should be tied down to a chair, strapped up with a butt gag in their mouth, and made to watch this scene. And any writers out there, film writers, that want to know if their dialogue is bad, sit down, minus the butt gaggle, and watch this scene. Ornithologist, now, and she looks right at his crotch. There's a mouthful. This is the most disgusting, cringy, childlike, retarded, moronic scene ever put to a James Bond film. It's got to be this one right here, as far as moronic writing. And the writing for Jinx doesn't get much better. When she's talking to Mr. Kill, Mr. Kill's got her strapped down and laser things are going around. He's going to torture her. And she comes out with a line like, Zhao says to her, "Who sent you?" "Your mama. And she told me to tell me she's not very happy with you." This woman just won an Oscar prior to shooting this in Monsters Ball, which was arguably the best role of her life. And now she's doing Yo Mama jokes and Big Bang Theory thrust jokes, all sexual innuendo. So her character is a waste, and I can just say, say thank you, Jesus, on this Easter Monday that she did not get that Solo spin-off film. Now, the Solo spin-off film, I will do a separate video on that because you guys have no idea how close it was to happening. And when you actually learn the truth of it and find out who cancelled that film and what happened and why it happened, you will be blown away. And it wasn't Barbara Broccoli or Michael G. Wilson that pulled the pin on it. They wanted to make it. So when you hear the truth of that soon in an upcoming video, you'll be a bit shocked and a bit amazed and thankful at a head at MGM that pulled the pin on it and would not put the money up for it. Okay, so we get Q in the form of RQ, whatever it is, John Cleese. He's a little bit better here than he was in The World Is Not Enough. Obviously, Desmond Llewellyn is not around because tragically he was killed just after the release of The World Is Not Enough in a car crash. So John Cleese, he's... To me, he's not cute. It's hard to replace Desmond Llewellyn, but it's all about gags. There's no kind of seriousness, and I just don't buy him as this gadget maker. And I think it's very hard to go past the fact that it's John Cleese and it's Basil Fawlty. To me, he'll always be Basil Fawlty. I remember watching that as a kid, and I got to admit, I thought it was a very, very funny TV series. I didn't watch it religiously, but when I did watch it, I always got a good laugh at that. So to me, he's John Cleese. Now, the car, let's discuss the car right away. The car is actually what a lot of people probably don't realise or take into account is the actual car is based on military information and what they're trying to do, what they were trying to do around that time with technology and probably still trying to do it. So it's an invisible car based off cameras and mini cameras basically projecting what is seen in front of it. So from that point of view, you can see in a snowscape area, it could work. But overall, in general life, and it's probably something that is better left in someone's imagination. Now, one of the saving graces of Die Another Day, because the action isn't great in this film, but this is the best action set piece in the entire film, the car ice chase. And it's so popcorn loving, like just shove the popcorn in your face, leave the brain at your door, and that's the type of film this is. And it's supported by this ice chase where Zhao is in his Jaguar and he's got bombs and missiles and everything, and he's chasing Bond. So from that point of view, it's, you know, it's a lot of fun. It is fun there, and visually it's fun though. Some of the editing, I think the editing is off in this film. There's a lot of what's called in the film game speed ramping. So you'll have a shot, for example, you're coming around a car and suddenly that's called speed ramping. And it's first time it's ever really been used. It is the first time it was ever used in a James Bond film, and I don't think it's been used since. And it's just, yeah, it's not great. Okay, so we're going to get to Lee Tamahori, and you know what? I'm going to leave him till the very end. So what do I think of the rest of the cast here? So Gustav Graves is played by Toby Stephens, and Toby Stephens has played James Bond in radio plays and like books or whatever it was. I haven't listened to them. I've heard he's actually really decent and pretty good. What do I think of Gustav Graves? I think he's arguably... He's not as bad as Charles Gray's Blofeld in Diamonds Are Forever. He is arguably the worst villain ever put to a Bond film, but he is pretty damn annoying. He's right up there. Everything Gustav Graves does with Toby Stephens doing as him, he's just chewing on the dialogue. It's spitting it out. It's really corny cheeseball dialogue, and it's ridiculous. The plot and the idea that is General Moon, which I should go back and explain here. So basically, Gustav Graves is, sorry guys, plot spoilers, is General Moon. And within 9 months, or within 12 months, this guy has gone from a little short Asian with an attitude into at least a 6'1" Gustav Graves, much bigger, bulkier, everything like that. And now he's got a multi-billion-dollar business. He's known all around the world, and he's getting knighted by the Queen. So really ponder that. Really, really think of that. And I've seen people, especially on, come join our Facebook page, James Bond Real Fans. You've got to answer the member questions though. But on our page, James Bond Real Fans on Facebook, there's 1 or 2 people that have actually put Die Another Day as their #1 Bond film of all time or in their top 5. Anyone that's putting this film as their #1 needs to be taken out into a paddock, and I'm sorry, but injected with the coronavirus or something right up the butt, because this is not the best James Bond film ever made. And I look at these people's lists, and then you've got like Goldfinger at 12, or you've got On Her Majesty's Secret Service at 10, 11, and you got Die Another Day at number 1, and I was just like, no, like what? Like seriously, like get off the crack. These people have got to get off the crack. They are, and there are a lot of Brosnan fans that, you know, they always turn around and go, yeah, Goldeneye's the best and Die Another Day is his worst, but then later on you'll see them defending it. And this is a terrible film. It's just a really bad film. Jason Bourne had come out, and I appreciate it's not trying to be Bourne at this stage. I appreciate that, but Ian Fleming's Bond and anything that came before it, Dr. No, From Russia Love, etc., was just left behind it. Now, people can say, crazy Kajibi, you hypocrite, you gave Moonraker 5 out of 5 Kajibi stars, or 007 stars out of Kajibi stars. Why do you not like Die Another Day? But you like Moonraker when Moonraker's crazy insane. Okay, I'll tell you why. Because Moonraker knew what it was. Moonraker knew it was a big, fantastical, fun film with great visual effects, with big set locations, and Roger Moore knew what he was playing. Pierce Brosnan is so lost in this film, and he's trying to be, in parts, this serious 007 in a complete piece of shit of a film. The script is here, his performance is trying to be here. Script here, his performance here, and it's going up and down. And it's really a mismatch. Now, some people say they feel sorry for Pierce Brosnan, this being his last film. I can understand that. It's a terrible last film. However, here's the thing though. Brosnan had control. He had more control than he would have believed. He was getting paid massive money. He went into James Bond, as I mentioned previously on, I think it was my Goldeneye review video, or Tomorrow Never Dies. Check them out, guys. They're below. And he went in not researching Ian Fleming's James Bond. He didn't read the novels. He didn't study the character like Daniel Craig and Timothy Dalton have done, and obviously Craig since done. So the guy wanted to be a movie star, and that's what he got. You know, lay down with dogs, you wake up with fleas, and he woke up with a whole lot of fleas with this film. He didn't care about the character so much, and then apparently there's rumours he had fights with Broccoli or the producers, and he wanted to do something a bit more serious. Well, I'm not really too sure about that, because he seems to be having fun, and when he was on the campaign trail for the film, he seemed happy to promote it and even said this is a great one with great characters and the whole thing. But we all know Pierce Brosnan is also a well-known bullshit artist. So, okay, let's get to Lee Tamahori, the elephant in the room. When you watch the special features, Lee Tamahori knows how to direct, and this guy had a good back catalogue of films, and of course he directed the very fantastic independent film Once Were Warriors from his homeland in New Zealand. And Once Were Warriors is very powerful, very character driven, so you can see in Die Another Day they're trying to push characters. The problem is they're trying to push really shitty characters. Now, technically, and what he's doing and where he wants camera A, B, C, D, whatever, he's really good. He's actually really good at the technical stuff and how he wants to do things. And even when he's shooting on the fly, he knows his stuff and he knows how to bring the crew with him. But the story and his ideas mismatched into what they're doing are terrible. And this is the guy also that wanted to make Sean Connery apparently come back into this film as I think it was he wanted, I think, Connery to be like an old Bond, and then see that this guy's a new Bond, and then he's giving up his license. There was some rumour like that. So Lee Tamahori's a bit nuts. He was also apparently found going down a Los Angeles drag or something, literally in drag, dressed up as a chick and drunk and on drugs. So the guy's career never really recovered after this film. So he's made a bomb, and I don't think it's ever recovered. And then apparently he's either transgender now or bisexual or whatever, and a lot of stuff has come out about him. But I think he's unfairly smashed in the public for this film in ways, because if you actually watch him direct, and even the story continuity, it's got pretty decent story continuity. But overall, yeah, it's a seesaw, this one, because the film's a piece of shit, but technically he's okay. But being technically okay, if you've got a piece of shit film, piece of shit script, it's not going to save the film. So Miranda Frost, she's the only decent character here, played by Rosamund Pike. She's decent. The other characters, including Samantha Bond's Moneypenny, is made to look like an idiot with the whole 3D glasses thing. That is a terrible sequence in the film. It is really, really bad. And let's get to the wave. The wave where Bond is on the wave. He's got the parachute glider thing, whatever. It comes off that fast ice boat thing, car, whatever you want to call it. Seriously, it's just so head-numbing, this section of it. And the visual effects in some parts of this film are absolutely terrible. Some of the model miniature sequences are really good, but overall the CGI is absolutely terrible. And to have James Bond paragliding, if you call it that, a tsunami or wow, with icebergs all around him, wow, oh my goodness. So to think that Casino Royale came out after this film, it just shows you that it was poles apart. And at the end of this film, the Bond producers realised this was an absolute turkey. But the film made money and it still had its fans, but it was mixed reviews, and it's now always listed in the worst 2-3 films out of the 24 official films we've got to see. Of course, No Time to Die will be the 25th film. So guys, that's pretty much my review. It's a sappy, crappy ending with bad CGI, and then we've got Halle Berry with Bond, and she's wearing a little white top, and he's playing with diamonds in her belly button, and it's kind of a sad farewell, I guess, to Pierce Brosnan, but thank goodness Jinx never came back. The saving graces of the film, Rosamund Pike as Miranda Frost. She's sexy, she's ice queen, cold, cool, sexy. The score by David Arnold is fantastic. Some of the lighting and cinematography is actually really good. Now, also one scene I will mention before I sign off is the Blades sequence where James Bond has the sword fight. A lot of people think this is fantastic. Again, it's got such cringy, horrible dialogue, especially with Madonna in this scene. As Verity, whatever her name was, and she is just shocking in this scene. Sure, the action's okay, but again, it is just so unrealistic that this guy, Gustav Graves, would be acting like this to a bloke he's just met. Of course, he's met him when he was General Moon, but why would he act like this so badly to give away his identity? It makes absolutely no sense. And again, apparently the person betrayed by him, who really was Em when you think about it, because she's got no love or trust for Bond here in this film, except for when it's convenient to her. Again, we never fully find out, but we assume Miranda Frost is that chick. Guys, that is my Die Another Day film review. Sorry, I couldn't even be more upbeat or something. It's just a painful film. Now, I will say, in fairness, if you want to leave your brain at the door and watch a big, stupid Bond film, and there's a cool cameo too by Deborah, I believe it's Deborah Moore. Roger Moore's daughter is actually the airplane hostess who brings Pierce Brosnan, James Bond, his martini, and he comes out with a bit of a funny glib line there. So that's actually Roger Moore's daughter in real life, and that's a cool little point of this film as well. There's not many saving graces. Next coming up is my Casino Royale review. Now, what do I give Die Another Day? I literally give it, this has been generous. This has really been generous. I'm going to give it 1 KGB star out of 007. Literally, I'm going to give it 1 KGB star out of 007 stars. Just 1. Sorry, guys. I can't give it much more. And it was the 40th anniversary Bond film as well. And we see a bullet coming up towards the screen. And all the references from all the other films are smashed through this film. Till next time, guys. Say hi to your mum for me. And keep on bonding. Keep on bonding and say hi to your mum for me. I'm out of here. I'm going to go do washing up. It'll be more fun than watching this film.
I want to thank the Razzies for this award being named Worst Female, Worst Actress, Supporting Actress, Worst Supporting Actress. What an honour, because I never thought I'd win anything for this piece of shit. Tamahori, I won an Oscar and you put me in this piece of shit, Tamahori. Screw you, Tamahori.